You're listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, hosted by Heather Dyer and Erin Walker. We're on a mission to inspire home cooks like us to try new recipes and make good food. All right, welcome to today's episode of Three Kitchens Podcast. I am here with Heather Dyer.
Hello, hello.
And I'm Erin Walker.
I have a bit of some seasonal allergies happening. This is what's going on with like spring, and it's affecting all of us in some way. So I was thinking this morning, I hope I don't sound like, what's it going to do to my podcast voice? As though I have a professional podcast voice.
Oh, no.
You know what it made me think of? Remember on Friends when Phoebe, she used to sing in the cafe with her guitar, and then she had a head cold, and everybody was like, wow, her voice is so sexy.
Yes.
And they all came to hear her sing. And then she got over her cold, and everybody was like, oh, and they laughed. Like, they stopped listening to her, and she's like, but come back.
She's like, somebody sneeze on me or something.
Yeah. She was more popular with the cold than without.
Oh, that's funny.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that'll be the case for us. But what's for lunch? It's not that.
Is it lunchtime yet?
No.
Can we start cooking?
Yeah.
All right. So we don't have Sarah here to bring us all this delicious Asian-inspired food. I'm going to make us some spring rolls at home because spring rolls are my favorite thing anytime we get takeout or we go for Chinese food or Vietnamese food. And I was talking to you about this before we started recording. And my favorite is the Chinese spring roll. I love me a Chinese spring roll. Mm-hmm. And you said, no, I like Vietnamese spring rolls better. So I'm going to make both.
Oh, wow. Ambitious.
I'm going to take it all on because I figure after reading through the instructions for this, it sounds like I can make and assemble these spring rolls, and then I can freeze them, and then I can fry at will.
Oh, at will. I think you will want to fry them quite often, and they'll be gone in no time.
Yeah. These might not make it to the freezer, but I can prepare them in advance, and then I can fry them, when it's a good weather day, since we can be outside and frying now, which is kind of exciting. So I plan to make these two different spring rolls, which have very different wrappers. Their contents are totally different too. Cool.
Oh, here I was thinking you were going to do like the same filling, but two different wrappers.
No, I've found some recipes on a website that I believe Sarah used before. It's called thewalksoflife.com. Walks as in the cooking walk, not the action of walking.
It's a good website. Lots of good stuff on there.
They have so many good recipes. I can't remember which, but we know Sarah's used it before. And so they had recipes for a Chinese spring roll and a Vietnamese spring roll. So it kind of comes from the same source. Both of them are 4.9 out of 5 in terms of their star rating. So I think they're going to be good. They both are pork. One uses a finely shredded pork loin, where the other one uses ground pork.
Oh, interesting.
They both got carrots in them. One's got a mung bean noodle in it, whereas the other one does not. I have to do a little bit of sourcing for the dried mushrooms, so I haven't figured that out yet, but I've got pretty much everything else.
Maybe TNT would have those mushrooms.
I was at Lucky and picked up a bunch of stuff, and then I guess I just didn't read well enough on my phone, and I didn't pick up the other mushrooms. And then the most different part is the Chinese spring rolls have a spring roll pastry that you wrap the spring rolls in, and the Vietnamese spring rolls use a rice paper that you would make for like a salad roll. They're wrapped and fried in those, and they are double fried.
Oh,
for them. So
you got a bit of work ahead of you.
They need to be fried twice.
Makes it crispy.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait. I love all the spring rolls.
I really do too. I've really wanted to make these for a long time, and I don't often do anything that I have to deep fry something in, so I kind of just avoid doing it.
That's the worst part of it, right?
I don't think it's, the frying is going to take a lot of time, but making these up, and if you can make these all up and pop them in your freezer and just fry them whenever you want, I think it's going to be really good. There's a dipping sauce for the Chinese spring rolls, although I do just like a plum sauce with my spring rolls, but this one has a sugar, Worcestershire, and soy sauce.
Sorry, Worcestershire always makes me laugh.
Wash your sister.
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire. I just remember your tip is always just mumble through it. Just start with the Worcestershire.
It's been a while since we've had that word on the podcast.
It's a word I've learned to say finally.
Worcestershire.
I can say it. And then for the Vietnamese one, they've got a recipe for a nok cham dipping sauce, which is always a favorite for us. Yeah,
sounds good. I can't wait to try them.
I'm gonna go after these spring roll recipes, kind of compare the two.
Now you're not going totally crazy and like making those Chinese spring roll wrappers, are you?
Oh no.
Okay, good. I was like gonna say, don't be insane, but I wouldn't put it past you, so I had to ask.
It's good that you asked. I was able to source these all out right next to the superstore I shop at. Just around the corner is the Lucky Supermarket. It's an Asian supermarket, and they have like a fresh food counter. And so I just popped in there, and I was able to find fresh bamboo shoots.
Fresh.
Yeah. They come in a little package that's fresh.
I've only ever seen them in a can.
I've only seen them in a can. So yeah, I was excited to get these. They had the mung bean noodles that I needed, and they had the wrappers, the exact ones that the picture on the website showed me. So that was really encouraging. And then I did get some fresh shiitake mushrooms, although they say you should use dried because it's stronger flavor. So I might have to cook down those shiitake mushrooms before I can add them into my filling. You wouldn't want to put them in fresh. I think they might release too much moisture or not be cooked enough. So I will probably cook down the mushrooms. But yeah, and then the rice paper wrappers and the Shaoxing wine. I needed to go there to source because they didn't have any at the superstore either. And other than that,
that's going to be really good.
I think this is going to be really fun.
You know, when we saw Sarah recently, I told her we're really missing all the Asian recipes. Can you even just send us some that we could be making? If you won't come on. And she did say she might, when she has time, she would like to come on and kind of guest and cook for us again, but she's just flat out with school. So she's not able to right now, but she was like, oh, okay, if I think of anything, I'll send it to you. So let's hope she comes up with something we can at least try without her expertise.
We can see how much we've learned. I felt like I was a lot more confident heading into the store to find what I needed, we talked about Shaoxing wine. So when I had to ask the person, where do I find this? I didn't have to pronounce it horribly, at least, I think.
Yeah, you knew what you were asking for.
I knew what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I was a little more comfortable with looking for different stuff and reading ingredients. And
I hope our listeners, too, along the way have picked up some of these things if it's not their typical stuff they shop for, right? Like now when I saw a recipe this morning for gochujang chicken wings, and I know what that will taste like now. I'm like, that would be so delicious. And I know I could make that. Yeah. So as you go along, hopefully you're hearing and learning, trying things along with us.
And I had a lot of fun going through the store and looking at stuff and being like, ooh, I could buy this and I could make that because of what we've learned from
It's
Sarah's.
Not quite so scary as when it's totally new. Sometimes it's like, I don't know what to do with that. But that's also the fun of it too, is just go and just try stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Exactly.
Just winging it.
Come join us. Tell us which spring roll is your favorite, and I'm really excited about this.
Me too. Okay, good. Go and deep fry those spring rolls.
Well, I gotta make them first, and then I'll come back and do that.
Hey, Erin, do we ever tell people that we have a website?
I think so. It's in our show notes.
We have a website and we post the recipes from our episodes. And we also have recipes on there that have not made it onto an episode. It's just stuff that we've cooked, tested out, and that we love.
Like what you did with that lamb short rib. That was delicious.
That's right. I make donuts with pancake mix. I have that kid who doesn't like to eat pancakes, but he'll eat one in a donut pan.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a way to do something a little bit different, we've got multiple options for you to explore.
And of course, all of our episodes, including the speakeasy bonus episodes and the drink recipes, that's all on there. So visit us over at threekitchenspodcast.com.
Happy spring rolls.
Spring rolls for spring.
Spring
happy
rolls.
Happy deep frying.
I'm going to say happy
about
deep frying is maybe not the way to enter this conversation. All right, so I didn't realize how different these recipes really were until I got into the thick of it. I made Chinese spring rolls and Vietnamese fried spring rolls. So completely different wrappers, completely different fillings. But
thank you for doing two, because that sounds like a lot of work.
It was the frying that fried my brain. I was
and your patience.
I was done with the frying by the end of that day. I made the poor choice of doing it in my house. Do this outside, everybody, if you're frying stuff.
Yeah.
Going into this, I said that Chinese spring rolls were my favorite and that Vietnamese spring rolls were my second choice.
Right.
Coming out of this, I would say the opposite in terms of making them.
Oh.
But
not eating them.
And how they ended up. I liked the Vietnamese ones way better. Yeah. Very surprised that I changed my own mind. All right, so let's go into these Chinese spring rolls to begin with. This had shredded pork loin, so I just took a pork tenderloin and cut it up into fine little pieces. There was a marinade of salt, sesame oil, Shaoxing wine, cornstarch, and pepper for the pork. And it sat in that as I chopped up the rest of the filling, which consisted of garlic, shiitake mushrooms, carrots, bamboo shoots, Napa cabbage, more Shaoxing wine, soy sauce, sesame oil, salt, pepper, and sugar. So chop, chop, chop. I doubled this recipe because it was only half a pork tenderloin to make the full recipe, and I had a full tenderloin, so I thought, hey, I'll just make twice as many. And the packages of wrappers that I bought, this recipe says it makes 20, and I bought a pack of 50 wrappers. So I was like, well, I might as well use. So once the pork had marinated, you toss it into I had my large Dutch oven pan with olive oil, stir fry it, and then you add all the vegetables and you keep frying it up. And then you're going to add in your soy sauce, sesame oil, salt, pepper, and sugar. And then you want to cook this down until the cabbage has wilted, and you want to stir in a mixture of cornstarch and water to thicken it up. It's a 1-to-1 of cornstarch and water, and they recommend 2 tablespoons of cornstarch in 2 tablespoons of water, but only add enough to thicken it up to what you desire. So you don't want to over thicken it if there's not enough moisture. So that's kind of your call. It did recommend using dried shiitake mushrooms and then rehydrating them. I found fresh ones, so I used that instead. Then I popped this into a bowl and let it sit in the refrigerator. They said if you can let it sit overnight, the flavors get stronger. So that's what I did. So I made that filling up and then popped it in the fridge and thought about it the next day. So these wrappers came frozen. So you take them out of the freezer, and I think they said you can let them sit for like 10 or 15 minutes at room temperature and they thaw, and it was really quick to get them thawed. They're very interesting in how they pull apart. They're very stuck together, and I was like, oh no, did I fuck this up somehow that I didn't know? But as soon as you get like a little edge started and you just kind of evenly pull at it, they like, you pull it right apart and they're like stuck together and they come apart. And then to make your little spring rolls, once you've wrapped them, stick together, you want to have another little cornstarch water mixture that's used to seal.
Oh,
Okay. So you put, it says 2 spoonfuls of the filling per spring roll. I think I had an ice cream scoop. So I did an ice cream scoop in each one. You want to fold it up into a little burrito. I feel like I could have done better wrapping and rolling on these because they didn't stick together. They didn't roll great. And as I practiced more, they got better over time, but it's definitely worth it to go check out a video of how to roll spring rolls because it's not as simple as I think I thought it would be.
It seemed almost more like a flat sort of package. Like they weren't round as I was expecting them to sort of.
Yeah, the folding and wrapping, because this is the first time I did this, definitely I struggled big time. I think I've learned enough now that when I do it again, they will be better. And I also think,
like, is this where the thickness of the filling comes in too? Because if it's too loose, it would be harder to roll, I would think, as opposed to like a bit of a tighter filling that would hold its shape, maybe? I don't know. I'm just guessing.
So it's a square little piece of paper. Wrapper, thank you. And I was putting the filling in and then folding the sides over before I rolled it. And I found that was a no-no after doing this many times because you couldn't get the filling as tight.
Yeah.
So if you folded the bottom up and then sucked it down to get the filling nice and tight and then folded your sides before rolling it over, you would get more even wrapper coverage on the little roll.
Okay.
And it's a fine art.
It's a bit like doing dumplings, right? You got to figure out which way works the best.
Someone's got to show you or teach you how to do that because trying to figure it out as you go, you definitely have some failure.
It's like me with empanadas. They always look like the absolute ugliest thing you've ever seen.
Right? Yeah. So
good thing they taste good.
So because of my poor rolling technique, it also affected the frying stage because with the first way that I described how I did it, it ended up being really thin, only a single wrapper layer on one side and then multiple layers on another.
Right.
And that caused the wrapper to stick and break and bust open in a lot of my spring rolls as I was frying them. Whereas the ones that I folded the second way, there was almost a double layer all around the wrapper because of the way it had folded. And then they didn't break open as I fried them. So this rolling technique thing definitely caused me a lot of grief and contributed to many of the fucks that I loudly exclaimed in my kitchen by myself as things didn't go great.
It helps. It helps to swear.
I was home alone. I could say all the bad words that I wanted to, and nobody was judging me and making me put money in the swear jar. Didn't teach my kids any new words, so that's good. So once you've got them folded up, and totally look at a video and try and figure that out better if you're going to take this on. Each little spring roll can just be placed on a baking sheet with parchment paper and then popped in your freezer. And these guys can sit in your freezer until you're ready to fry them. I made these and froze them, and then I started working on the Vietnamese spring rolls that day, and then fried everything at the end once I was done. So these guys fried in a pot with oil that was at 325 degrees plus or minus. They fried for probably 5 or 6 minutes per batch. These also splattered a whole bunch when they went into the hot oil and these were a really messy spring roll to make, and I don't ever want to fry this wrapper ever again inside my house.
Interesting. Everybody, if you could see Erin's face,
no me gusta.
Get just how unimpressed she is by this.
Post-traumatic frying PTFD. So those were the Chinese spring rolls. What did you think of those ones?
Oh, they're delicious. Yeah, they're really tasty.
And they heated up really good in the oven. We made them for dinner that night. Well, my husband made them for dinner by toasting them in a hot oven.
Yeah, that's what I did with them too. I put them on a cookie sheet and just popped them in the oven and let them get nice and hot.
Yep.
They were crispy and they held together to eat, just by hand, just picking them up and eating them. They didn't fall apart or anything. They were really delicious. And my kids, we had both at once.
Oh, yes.
My kids really liked the filling of the Chinese one the best.
Ooh, interesting.
Surprised me because of the mushroom. I thought they wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
But they did. They liked that filling.
It was really tasty. My kids like the bamboo shoots in that one. The little white, they looked like little C-shaped white pieces. And they were like, what's this? And
I didn't know it when they asked me, what's in here? I'm like, listen, I haven't heard yet. I don't know all the things that are in here. So, and if I was told, I've forgotten.
Here you go, kids. Mystery food. Just eat it. I like that your kids trust me.
Oh, they know everything that comes for the podcast is going to be good, or at least they're willing to try.
They're willing to try. Exactly. Oh, cool. I'm glad that the kids liked it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was reading up because I hated the frying process so much, especially with these wrappers. They made such a big mess.
Mm-hmm.
I was very angry, and I had some leftover wrappers from this. And I was like, what can I do with these? How can I cook these a little bit differently and do something kind of quick and play around with this fake frying by baking it in the oven?
Mm-hmm.
And so I found a recipe they said you can make s'mores out of this. Just get some crushed up graham crackers, some chocolate chips and marshmallows, and toss them in a wrapper and roll them, which is where I did some really nice rolling on my spring rolls.
Oh, you mastered
it
didn't
now. Matter. And so this was luckily the next day, so I was a little less bitter. Still some bitterness going through here. Yeah, it's 3 days past, and I've still got
there.
some. Maybe it's just releasing it now will make me feel better. This is like cooking therapy for Erin. So I rolled these up, and they said brush them with olive oil, 400-degree oven, and bake them. The marshmallows got a little bit overbaked, and they almost turned into like a caramel sauce just because they sat in the oven for 20 minutes. And then they kind of like mushed into the rest of the graham crackers and chocolate chips, and they were like this sweet caramelly crispy. Yummy. They disappeared really fast. I think I got a picture of the tray before they went in the oven, and then they were gone like that. And I was like, well, I can talk about them, but there's no
But what did the wrapper do? How did the wrapper?
The wrapper was awesome.
Oh.
So it was still really crispy on the outside. It wasn't as oily because they had been baked rather than fried. And I think you could 100% do this with those Chinese spring roll filling and stuff and
bake it.
I had sunflower oil that I just brushed onto them, and then 20 minutes in the oven at 400. And I think that would produce a good spring roll. They were really crispy and flaky and exactly what you want in a spring roll without all that frying mess. So when I make these again, I will be doing them in my oven. I even baked in some of my bad vibes to Heather.
I know you were like, because I was ranting yesterday as we were out doing something, and I was on a rant about blah, blah, blah. And you're like, did I put my bad mojo into those spring rolls?
I felt like I sent bad vibes to your house.
I got enough bad vibes happening. You didn't impact that at all. I did it all myself.
So Chinese spring roll, really juicy, delicious filling.
Very good.
I love the texture of the wrapper on there. Just don't fry them.
Just don't fry.
Don't fry them. Bake it in your oven. So then we move on to Vietnamese fried spring rolls. And so these guys are done in rice paper wrappers. So totally different deal there. And the filling is a raw ground pork mixed with raw ground pork, grated carrots. It says rehydrated wood ear mushrooms. I did not go out and seek these. I just decided to use fresh brown mushrooms. 1/4 cup of finely chopped onion, minced garlic, grated ginger, egg white, fish sauce, vegetable oil, salt, and pepper.
It is completely different.
100%. Like there is almost nothing that crossed over other than the carrot, the garlic, and that's it.
Yeah.
Crazy how different this one was. And then you also add to this mixture something called mung bean noodles. And so these are like a vermicelli noodle. On the package, it was called bean thread And so you take these really thin little noodles and you soak them in warm water for about half an hour. You drain them and then you chop them up and they go into this ground meat mixture too. And I love this noodle in this filling so much.
Mm-hmm.
This was our family's favorite in terms of the filling and the wrapper texture. We loved this.
The kids were like, what are these little noodle things? I'm like, listen, I don't know.
Guys.
Whatever it is, they were like, whatever it is, it's really good.
Yeah. For rehydrating your rice paper wrappers, they're like a circular, semi-transparent wrapper that's dried. And so you want to fill a dish with a cup of warm water and a couple teaspoons of sugar. They say that putting the sugar in with the water helps it brown the wrapper when it goes into the oil.
Oh, interesting.
So I took their advice. I think it worked fine. Same sort of deal assembling these guys. You put your rice paper in there. It's only, I think I counted to like 10, flipped my paper, counted to 10 again, and then popped it onto my cutting board and then just kind of softened up really easily. I did again a ice cream scoop of this filling in there. I did a poor job of wrapping it again. These ones, and I couldn't figure this out. Again, with wrapping these, you really want to like reduce the amount of bubble in your filling when you're wrapping it. You want it really tight. Mm-hmm. I did not get this done very well. I had the same sort of struggles before where it was really thin on one side and too thick on the other side because I wasn't wrapping it very well. When it went into the deep fry, it stuck to the bottom of the pot. And then if I tried to poke it to move it a little bit with the chopsticks, it would break the wrapper. And my filling, again, I would have problems with. It was... It didn't go great. Oh, I forgot what those other ones. My hands were like all red from the amount of spatter and trying to move things around. God, I hated those things. Okay. I loved to fry these ones because they did not spit and splatter everywhere. They were easy to move around in the pot. Once I found that if you just let them sit and stick where they had landed in the pot, after a couple minutes, they would release and pop up and then they'd be okay and they wouldn't be sticky. So it was kind of like forming that crust on the outside of the wrapper before you touch them so you don't fuck them up. Mm-hmm. They fried for 15 minutes and my pot was a little bit hotter. It was 335 for these guys, so 10 degrees warmer. So it was a hotter oil that they went into. And then they recommend and told me to refry the spring rolls before you serve them. That did not happen.
I don't blame you at all. I'd have been surprised if you said it had.
I did not. I fried these ones first, so I didn't know the pit of hell that frying was until I started on the Chinese ones, because these first ones I was like, well, I'm really disappointed my wrapper's breaking and blah, 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 but at least it's not making a huge mess. Mm-hmm. And then I started the next thing.
You know what, though? If you'd started with the Chinese, you might not have gotten to the Vietnamese.
I might not have gotten there. I might have been like, see ya. So these just toasted up in the oven again to serve. It was kind of chewy and crispy at the same time, which I didn't mind. So honestly, I wouldn't worry about the double fry. And I liked this filling a lot. And I just dipped this all in plum sauce that I bought at the store, because when it was like, you can make these dipping sauces, I was done and decided, I think when I dropped it off, I was like, you could totally make some nok cham with this. It would be delicious, but I didn't make it for you. So if you want to do it
you were
yourself.
Like, if you want it, you're on your own. I was like, okay. I didn't make it either. We ate it with the plum sauce and it was delicious. In fact, I think one of my kids who's a big soy sauce, he put like soy sauce and everything. He dipped them all in soy sauce and he loved it. So
yeah, exactly.
Whatever you like. Right? I had told you before that the Vietnamese spring roll is my favorite type of spring roll. And because I love that rice paper wrapper, the way it is I like that it's a little crispy, a little chewy. That's what I like about it. So I thought you did a great job with them. And it did not need to be fried twice. It was crispy and delicious and loved it. Even though I would not go to the effort to fry them because I hate frying stuff just as much as you do.
I would fry these ones again.
Do you think these would bake the same way that the Chinese ones would bake?
That I don't know. I did not go through the effort of trying that. I might. Yeah, there's other ways you can also use the rice paper wrappers. So I haven't totally moved on that yet, but I might try the fry. But I would definitely make this filling and these wrappers again and even fry them.
It was delicious. The filling was so good.
Yeah, my kids and my husband, we all really loved the filling on this and the texture of the wrapper. And sadly, I only made a single batch of those ones. And I was like, man, I wish I would have done this the other way around and double batched these ones and single batched the other ones. But
that's what this is all about.
And I have learned, and I hope you have too.
We've all learned. Well, I'm sorry that it was difficult and that you had a frustrating time, but the fact that you're willing to do things to tackle it again, that says something right there. They really are fantastic, like really delicious.
Fresh ideas.
Right here on Three Kitchens Podcast.
That's right. Let's just end with that. You're good.
Nice.
And now for the fine print. Join us over on the socials. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website at threekitchenspodcast.com. Remember, when you like, follow, subscribe, and leave us a review, it helps more people find us. Thank you so much for listening.
No, it's not my ears.
It's not me. I'm not falling apart.
For once.